Now, Fred and Rose West are two of the UK's most notorious serial killers, having been convicted of killing 12 young women between 1967 and 1987. And today sees the release of a new documentary featuring unseen police footage and interviews with some of the victims' families. Well, joining me now is Detective Russ Williams, who was part of the Gloucestershire police force at the centre of the murder investigation. And joining me from her home in Holland is Dezra Chambers, whose sister Allison was one of the victims. Good morning to you both. Good morning, Des. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. You're one of several people, Des, that have spoken in this documentary for the very first time publicly about your story. What made you feel now was the right time to do that?
I wanted to bring Alison to life. I've noticed that this documentary was about bringing the victims to life, talking about the victims. And whenever I've read things in the papers or whatever, then it's just been Alison's picture and all the other young ladies' pictures, and then names, and then the rest was about what happened. And I just wanted to bring Alison to life and let people know that she's loved, she's intelligent, all the little things that nobody seems to know.
Absolutely. And you explain in the documentary, Des, that you had very strict parents and Alison struggled with that. She ran away from that. And that is how she came to be in care in Swansea initially. That must have been a very difficult time, well, for you and for her, missing each other desperately. What are your memories of that time and of Alison at that point?
Well, she didn't want to be in care. I went to visit her straight away. We hugged and she was crying. She didn't want to be there, but she didn't have much choice. So, we just have to get on with it.
Yeah. And when was the last time you saw Alison?
We went to another care home she was in, the second one, also in Swansea, and they had a garden fete, and we all went to see her. And I just got engaged at that time, so we went upstairs to her room, and she'd made me a little cushion with good luck on and the infinity emblem on the back, and I still have that now.
I bet, and very cherished possession, I'm sure,
Yeah.
Des. She then later, of course, moved to Gloucester. And again, we see this in the documentary. Your family received a letter from her. Can you remind us of what she wrote in that letter and why you felt slightly comforted at that point?
You're comforted because you know she's okay. She's writing that, everything's fine. Don't worry about me. She wrote that she met a lovely family. She was a sort of nanny. She was very good friends with the eldest daughter. And not to worry about her. And she saw them as a second family, but we were always the first family. She made that really clear in the letter. So, it gives you a bit of hope that she's okay and she's doing well.
And of course, then suddenly she disappears. Des, a devastating time for all of you. The police were informed that she was a missing person. You, in fact, went to try to find her. You went in search of her.
Yeah, with the Salvation Army, they had then sort of missing persons. So I got in touch with them, and then they got back to me, but there was no trace of her. They couldn't find anything about her.
How did you finally discover what did happen to Alison? How did that come about, Des?
We got I got actually, when I actually knew that Alison was one of the victims, was a phone call from my then mother-in-law. She was apologizing and crying and saying that she was sorry, the awful news, and I had no idea what she was talking about. So then she said that Allison was in the papers, that it had been confirmed that Allison was one of the victims. And so I phoned up my mother to find out if that was true. And they later confirmed it.
Yeah, terrible, terrible moment, and just heartbreaking confusion for all of you at that point. But you decided you wanted to go to 25 Cromwell Street, Des. This was in the mid-90s during the trial. What are your memories of setting foot inside that house?
I didn't actually go in the house. I didn't want to. I wanted to be in the garden. The liaison officer met me at the airport for the trial and asked me would I like to go to the house. I said yes. We went there. I wanted to go into the garden because that was the last place Alison was. And there was police tape across the garden, so we couldn't go in there. So we went back round to the front, and I just remember it was a really ugly house. But the police liaison officer was telling me that there was the wall behind me where she used to sit and chat with her friends, and the chip shop on the corner where she went. So it was nice seeing some memories that, yeah, that she had some nice little memories there at the time before it all happened.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Of course, just
Just be in the place where she was the last.
Yeah, there was a closeness suddenly. How has this shaped you, Des? I mean, it's just such a devastating story, and of course, there's huge attention around the world on this story as well. That extra level of pressure. How have you coped?
Well, I've been very lucky living in Holland. It hasn't been so big over here, and nobody really knew where to find me. And then I have a with everything. I put things into a little box in the back of my mind, and I just get on with life. And that's what I did. I had 2 young daughters. I worked full time, so I just got on with life. And then, yeah, I decided now after all these years, yeah, I can just look after myself. Don't have to worry about anybody else. And yeah, now was the time to talk about Alison, and I'm hoping that at the end I get a bit of closure from it all. And it seems to be bringing me closure.
No, that's certainly a good part of this, Des, for you, and it takes real strength to do what you have done. And like you say, it's about not forgetting the real Alison, the human that she was. Thank you very much indeed, Des. We really appreciate you sharing your story with us this morning. Here with us in the studio is Russ Williams. Russ, thank you so much for joining us as well. And at the time of the investigation, you were a detective constable in the Gloucestershire Police. I'm sure never, ever having experienced anything like this, and it was just unravelling daily.
Well, it was, and there's been nothing since. It was a very slow burn, and I think sometimes it's difficult for people to understand the concept in which it started, which was from a very small acorn, and then it grew and it grew and it grew. I mean, we were initially looking just for Heather, but as the investigation progressed, then the more remains we found, it was clear that there was more victims, and it was a very slow realisation amongst the team that what we were facing at that stage. And it came to a point when Fred's admission letter, confession letter that he sent to John Bennett, the SIO, Senior Investigating Officer, in which he admitted to approximately 9 further murders.
Well, it's
and it was that point that the realisation hit home, really.
Of just how horrific this was. What were they like, Fred and Rose?
Well, I think
like their dynamic between themselves. What was it like from the outside looking in at them?
Well, I think, to be fair, we probably didn't see Fred at the best of times when we met him. He'd been arrested. He was known to the police previously. But he came across as being very, very charming, and the complete opposite to what Rose was. Rose was very cold and callous, calculating. But Fred had a persona about him in which he could be very convincing. And when you think about the types of crimes and how they committed it, you needed to have that ability to convince people to get into vehicles, to charm them, to encourage them to 25 Cromwell Street, to cover up the tracks of Heather, you know, when she went missing, Charmaine, when she went missing. So he needed something about him to actually convince the authorities, and he had that gift. And that, what I think was particularly made him dangerous, because he was able to convince people that he was a decent, family, home-loving individual. And clearly he wasn't.
No, absolutely not. And you, of course, you stepped foot, or just Des went to the garden. You were in the House of Horrors, as it was dubbed, of course, in the press. I mean, I'm sure that will stick with you forever.
Well, I think that for me, the most poignant place to go to was in the cellar, where we know some of the victims were buried. But all around the cellar's wall was murals of children murals of cowboys, and suggesting much happier times. And so you had this juxtaposed position whereby we knew for a while that underneath 3 4, 5 foot of soil were the remains, yet within the cellar itself, it was clearly being used as a children's play area. So it was that position, and it takes a while to process and to understand, but it's bizarre just to think what happened in that cellar. It's complete opposites.
And just your ability to sort of in some way carry on life and detach yourself from it all, Russ, it is remarkable. And watching the documentary, listen to all of your accounts, it's just chilling. And thank goodness you were all there to try and do your job and do it in the way that you did. It's an incredible documentary. Fred and Rose West, a British horror story. It's out now on Netflix. Thank you very much indeed. Ross, thank you for joining us this morning. Hi there, thanks for watching our YouTube channel where we upload new videos every single day. You can click here if you're interested in this video or head to the homepage for some more amazing content.